Welcome back to the Mama Genius Festival / podcast. We're doing it all today because we're going to get these wonderful speakers onto the podcast, sharing their messages and their beauty. And we've had such an array of wonderful speakers, and I guarantee you are not going to get a bad one today because Katelyn is coming up next talking about publishing, and your book can change a life. And it's all about getting your message out there in a different form. And she's going to give us some tips on that. So I cannot wait to bring Katelyn up. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub Podcast, where we support moms with big dreams from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. And we're back. And Katelyn Silva is a 5 times best-selling author of 12 books, some under a pen name. She's a God-fearing, devoted wife and homeschooling mother of 4. Come on, we got to give her a congrats on that. She's the founder of We Write Books, speaker, and host of the 1 Minute Writing Tip podcast. I want to learn more about that one. I have not checked it out yet, but I'm going to. She works with a faith-filled women to get their clarity on their book's idea, confidently write, and publish a bestseller, and use it as a tool to impact, authority, and accomplishing their God-given purpose. She believes every person has a unique story worth telling. I am so excited to bring Katelyn up to the screen. Hi, Katelyn. How are you doing tonight? I'm so excited to have you on tonight.
Hey, Michelle. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and talking to you and all the ladies, of course.
Well, I want to know your take on how you feel the festival has been going for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just had so many different voices and tips, and I've just really been excited and impacted by the wealth of wisdom and knowledge and experience from just how to navigate motherhood and business and with kiddos, and it's just been really great.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear that. And we're just going to dive right in because that's the way I roll. And I want to know your why about wanting to teach people how to get their message out through a book.
Yeah, so I will try to give the brief brevity version, but for me, it's really rooted in way back when I was little. And my mom actually taught me how to write before I even learned how to read. And so I was actually writing these fun little stories I would have to have my dad read back to me when he got home from work in the evening. And so that really just instilled this passionate love of stories and storytelling and all the things. And unfortunately, my mom actually passed away when I was little, when I was 8. But at the same time, telling stories and continuing to pursue that passion that she gave me was a way that I honored her memory. And I felt like I continued to remember her, but also like take kind of part of her with me. And so for me, as I got older and I had kids of my own, I started pursuing all these different things. At some point, writing got put on the back burner because of just real life demands. I had kids and a family, and I was going to school, and I had to put food on the table and all the things. And then there came this point when, and I'll have to talk about it a little bit more detailed later, but this crisis moment that really shifted everything for me. And I actually shared it in my talk in the group, where I dove in head on into the publishing industry. And once I published my first bestseller, people started asking me, okay, like you're working and you've got kids and you're going, like, what is happening? How are you writing and publishing books? And I was like, well, let me help you. And I just started helping people. And that really launched me into this really passionate, okay, like I can actually pursue what I've been put on this earth to do and help people and help them get their messages out and share my own stories and be a mom at the same time. Like, yes, please. So it's just, being able to be the mom to my kids and spend that time with them and at the same time share that message that I have and help people do the same. It just feels like such a win-win.
I'm taking that in right now because it's so true that as moms, we think that we need to put our stuff aside and we can't do some of those, that combination of the two. But I bet, because what I'm seeing from all the moms on here and stuff is when you're living in your genius, what are you inspiring in your kids around you? I'm betting there's a lot there too.
Absolutely.
So let's just dive right into what are some of those tips and how do we do it as get that writing out in motherhood? What are some of those ways we can put that throughout our day?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing to recognize is that I want to do a little bit of myth busting. People have this idea that when you are pursuing a book, especially, that it has to be this big, huge project. And it has to be this thing that you have this weekend getaway and you can go and write for several hours, or where you just have to pour out all of this material and it has to be perfect the first time out. And I'm sorry, but that's just not reality. And for anyone that's ever even tried to write a book, you'll quickly realize how false that myth is. And so it's really about actually looking at your time and being really intentional and honest about where your time is going and what time you have. So if you're moms of little ones and you have babies that take naps, that might be a great time, 15, 20 minutes, where you just knock out a few words or a paragraph or even a page or whatever. Any amount of progress is a win, and it doesn't need to be perfect. One of my number one rules of writing is write, get it out of your head, get it on paper, and then go back and edit later. No editing during the first draft. And so just really being honest and intentional about where is my time going and where can I be more specific about when I'm writing. You'll be amazed at how much you can actually write and accomplish in less time than you think, just by actually committing those short, small periods of time that make progress over time, than thinking that you have to get everything done in this massive time dump. And I'll throw in there, since I mentioned little kids, if you have older kids that have extracurricular activities or just have other things going on, or even where you could have them do some like thing that they enjoy, step into their genius for like 30 minutes to an hour, then use that too. So just never underestimate the creativity that you can put into intentionality and that consistency over time.
Sorry, I'm taking notes furiously. But I really love that intentionality of it all. And I love how you give the tips. And DJ's also saying she loves the intentionality too. And the like busting that myth that we have to do it all in one period. I think sometimes we set ourselves up for failure because we think that, okay, well, I need to have a certain amount of time. I need to have 4 hours to be able to ever do that. And we don't chunk it down to, I'm sitting at their swim practice. Instead of doing something else, I could sit here and just see what comes out onto the paper and spend my 30 minutes doing right then there. I mean, people keep asking, how do you do the festival? It's the same concept of chunking it out and doing it when you can and putting that intentionality, like you said, back into it. And I love that so much. So now we got the myth busted. We got some intentionality in there. What's our next step?
I love that. Yeah. So ultimately, if we're just focusing on the writing part for right now, the next step is obviously like actually follow through on the commitment. I mean, at some point, you have to put aside all of the research and the planning and the whatever, and you have to just sit your butt down and just freaking write the thing, and so, I mean, and I love what you said too about just like not just the intentionality, but just rethinking, like shifting your mindset, and doing it when you can. And so, sit your butt down, do the writing, get an accountability buddy. I mean, seriously, it's so powerful when you have either a friend or a writing buddy, or you're in a writing community where you're doing writing sprints together, doing a writing challenge in a group, or even just like actually hiring a mentor that can guide you through that process, and you get your questions answered and things like that is so valuable. I have numerous client stories of people that have come to me after like decades of like, I can't figure it out, and then like 90 days later they have their manuscript. So it's just looking also at your resources and being like, what is going to work best for me? How can I make sure that I accomplish this goal and I don't continue to put it off, where I'm looking back in 10, 20 years wishing that I had just freaking done the thing.
That is so true, because you're like, well, I wish I would have done this, but you have 20 years from now. Right now, you can say, oh, I wish I would have done this when I was 20, but you have right now, and you can have that same wish when you're 60 or whatever age you are 20 years from now if you don't start now. I love putting that in that perspective that you just said, because it really is just about starting it out right now. And again, like you said, it is the small chunks. It's removing that we have to do a whole chapter at a time. Like you said, a paragraph, a page, just starting the process of it. And when the flow state comes, it will come and go, but as we know. But if we don't give it a chance, it will never come.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to insert too that everybody is a little different. And one of the things I really encourage each and every person is that ultimately you have a unique voice, a unique story, a unique experience, a unique way of saying things that nobody else on this planet has. And I really truly believe this. You in your own life, every single person that's listening, have had a moment where you've heard something a million times. And for some reason, the way one person in particular said it or shared the story or whatever, all of a sudden it clicked. That light bulb moment finally happened and shifted everything for you. And the thing that you have to realize is that you are that person for somebody else. And by you withholding, you're actually withholding that shift that is meant to happen for somebody else, and that ripple effect, that impact that you're supposed to have. And so it's also shifting the perspective from being in that place of, I can't do this, and what if I'm not enough, and all the things, to instead focusing on, no, this is what I've been given. This is the gift that I have. This is the message I have to share, even if it only reaches the one. And you just focus on that one. You just focus on that purpose and that why that you have. And it really helps you to eliminate a lot of those doubts and struggles and get more intentional also with just pursuing the content just step by step. And another block that people often have in approaching the writing process is really feeling like they're not clear or like they're not sure where to start or how to get the content on the page. And so for lack of time, I just can't go into like all of the nuances. And I'll talk about that later. But just know that there is absolutely an answer. There is absolutely a resource. There is always something that can help you move forward. And so it's just not allowing yourself to stay stuck in the excuses. It's like, okay, no, I am going to focus on that one person and that impact and just that thing that I know that God has given me to say or to share or whatever, that gift I've been given. And I'm going to push through to that why, to that vision, and keep writing. Even if I am feeling all of these negative things, I'm going to keep pushing through until I get to the end.
I love that so much, not being stuck in the excuses. On that note, we're going to go into one of the resources I offer, which is a way to categorize and get into that quiz and figure out what your archetype is. So here we go. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths. Transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. And we're back. And so I love that, though, so much, just letting go of the excuses and to really, DJ was putting in the comments, just sit your butt down and write the thing. And I think that's so true, is sometimes we just think too far and too much, and we put these big expectations on ourselves that are too grand. And so that's what we end up with instead of just inching it forward. And I love how you broke down the steps into also then that idea that someone out there is waiting for your message, because the way you say it is going to resonate with that person. I love that so much. So what's our next step?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you've gotten the manuscript written, then the next steps are pretty much universal, whether you're going like independent route or traditional route or whatever. I mean, it's pretty much going to be, edits, cover design, making sure it's interior formatting, and then picking your actual launch strategy. It'll be a little bit different once you get to that phase, whether it's, with a publisher or not. And just know for the audience that all the strategies work. The real question is, which one is going to help you accomplish your actual goals for you and your book? And what I mean by that is that every single person also has a bigger vision the book is a part of. So I actually don't push the book as the be all end all in and of itself. For some people, they kind of just want to do it for the sake of doing it. But I also encourage people to think about the long term and how a book becomes kind of this eternal universal tool, even beyond just the launch, that you can always use to invite people to join your community or to invite them to check out your podcast or your additional resources or your course, or there's just so many different opportunities. And I want to specifically say on the fiction side too, don't just think of it in just the like nonfiction business terms. Fiction is one of the most powerful forms of storytelling that really helps you take away a lesson or just overcome something or not feel alone or whatever it is. And I have seen so many different fiction authors really turn it into something that's valuable and profitable and build a community around that. And so whether it's nonfiction or fiction, it's picking the publishing strategy that, again, is going to help you accomplish that bigger vision that you have. And when it comes down to a lot of the nitty gritty in that, I just want to also encourage you that it's important to also be intentional and look at your budget, look at your resources, look at what you can invest, and also do something to invest in that book as a more universal tool. Because in the market that we currently have, while it's true that most people want to write a book and a few percent actually do, at the same time, because of just sheer numbers, there is a lot of books out there. And so you do want to stand out, you do want to look professional, you do want to captivate your audience. You don't want something that screams amateur, I just threw this out there for funsies. You want something that really says, I know what I'm doing and I care about what I'm doing. And so even if it's just, asking around like your teacher friends or your community or your network and connecting with someone that can work with you in your budget, do invest in something that's professional quality. It's so worth it. But once you've chosen your strategy, then it's also just asking yourself, what can I really commit to 100% all the way to the end? Because you don't want to be like that person that, and I'll use this analogy, and I'm not going to take credit for it. I got it from somewhere else, but it's a good analogy. So it's like this person standing on one side of a river and their ideal destination's on the other side of the river, right? And there's like rapids and all the things. So they have to start building this bridge across the river, and picking a strategy is like building this bridge. And so many times people will pick that strategy, they'll start building the bridge, and then they'll get about halfway across and the river's looking a little crazy. And they're like, I don't know, maybe I should have picked a different one, right? And so they kind of backtrack and pick a different one. And this process repeats, right? And then they end up with a bunch of half-built bridges, whereas if they would have just stuck it through, even when it got hard, they would have made it across. And then they could have used that bridge that they built to test out additional resources and strategies, because they would have a foundation that they're building on. And so sometimes it doesn't necessarily always work out exactly the way that you wanted it to, but it's still there and it's still a foundational piece and it's still a resource that you can use and you can continue to work toward that vision that you're trying to accomplish.
I love that so much, because when we don't stick through and we don't follow through with the things, and you have those half-built bridges and nothing actually takes you across. But and I want to point out that you put, what can I commit to for 100% to win? And like you said, it doesn't have to be that you pick whatever project or what. So I want to circle back and ask, so I know you have 5 different books that you have best-selling on. What route did you take? Were there different ones for each of the books, or did you pick what route did you pick to publish them?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of backstory before I just dive right into the strategy is that I actually started out with a small publisher, and I mean, it was great. I was super green at the time, and I learned a lot, and I realized that route just wasn't what I wanted. Because the thing is that in our industry, because of the way the market has shifted for independent publishing and things like that, publishers will still require authors to be involved a lot in the process. And the difference is that you're doing all this marketing effort and blogs and all the things. The publisher has their requirements, but you're only making like half the royalties or less. So for me, especially with my goal of, I really want to build a business. I want to build something that I can write for myself and I can share my stories, and I don't have to, edit myself based on publisher requirements or whatever. I really wanted to own my work. And so I parted with the publisher and I went independent. And once I did that, I actually did invest in myself. So I actually hired a lot of different people to start learning the process. And I worked with different editors and cover designers. And I really went all in, just really investing in my own learning and growth so that I could learn how to do it right. Because I didn't want to just put something out there for the sake of putting it out there. I really did. Like, I walked exactly what I'm telling you guys. I did this through experience. And so I learned the hard way. And eventually, when I did publish my first bestseller, what I used was a combination of a launch team method with a 99-cent, promo day kind of method. It's where you put the book at 99 cents on launch day, maybe for the whole week afterward. And you have a launch team kind of support you and leave reviews and help share and things like that. There's a lot of nuances and more to the actual strategy behind the scenes before you actually launch, but I just don't have time to go into all the details right now. But that's the gist of the strategy. And I have seen a lot of peers of mine implement at least the basics and still get reasonable results with their books.
I love that too. So, and I think you're right. The industry has changed a bit, and the idea of really having true ownership over your work and the way that you want to do it. I mean, again, just knowing all the choices out there and hearing that, because I think a lot of people think, well, it's better if it's a bigger publisher. But again, you need to look at the what you. It always comes down to is what is your end goal? Like, is it to be your business card, or is it to be the fiction story that you want to be that bestseller and New York Times bestseller? Like, what is your goal? Because everyone's goal and designs are so different. And so if this is to be your personal business card, as you were describing in a way, to really be the one that shows where your podcast is, to show where your things in, then that might be where you want to learn how to do it and have it. But again, I love that you're just giving the ideas so people can start percolating. What is the first thing really step is what is my end goal? This is what we really have to like come up with and determine that before and then we can work backwards and then go through all the tips you gave, because once you know the end goal, then you can really go circle back and go, okay, well then I want this kind of publisher. I want this and I want those things when you know what you want. And
Absolutely.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize too that even on the fiction side, I mean, yeah, nonfiction books are great for building businesses and things like that, but you can also use it for, there's just so many different types of books. Like, for example, I've worked with people that have created like devotionals or like more just not necessarily business card types books, but they've created a material that they can lead people through a workbook or through a membership or through just building community together and things like that. And then on the fiction side, I've seen people that have written fiction books or even children's books.
I've seen children's books.
Published, yeah, and they use them for like they build a series or again they start building a readership community where it's like every single time you're putting a new book out, you have people that you're growing your fandom essentially, and your book sales increase. And so there's just so many different opportunities no matter what type of book you're writing. And I always encourage people to think about on the long term, not even just like courses and business, which is great, but also like book signings, book fairs, book festivals, local farmers market, like just anything that you can use to continue the conversation and get your book in front of new eyeballs is always a win for sure.
I love that so much. Just like the idea of continuing the conversation, and then also the concept of really being able to build a community around what you're putting out there, and just the different options you just gave right there with the book signing, the fairs, and everything. I love that so much. Well, sometimes the videos are getting a little glitchy. Sometimes they're perfect. I never know. But either way, join us, help support the Tanzania project and getting that the moving it CKP lead and connecting mamas out to Africa. We really appreciate that. But on that note, Katelyn, we're going to jump into our 5 questions for you. I'm so excited to hear what your answers are. But first, I just want to say I learned so much about just the broad idea of how to put our ideas. And I love the idea that you really threw out the different genres out there and really getting us to think beyond just the business card, just beyond all of that as well. And so we're going to dive though in right now. As a mompreneur, what is your favorite podcast, resource, tool, book that helps you manage your busy life as a mom and business owner?
I absolutely love and adore the Mom Life with Jesus podcast by Sasha Starr Robertson. She has such a wealth of amazing tips for moms. Like, I really can't say enough about it, so I probably will just like cut it off now, but it's just so good. And she just has just such great resources, and I just can't recommend it enough.
Oh, I love it so much. You're gonna make sure when you put your links in the you put that one as well. Number 2 is I like to talk about the fun activities and joy we bring to our house with, and love to know some of your family activities or rituals that just you guys enjoy doing so much.
Yeah. So first of all, when it comes to fun, like organization type activities, I don't do it as much as I would like to, but I like to put on a song, and it's like a flash song cleanup. And so like as while the song is playing, it's like something super fun and like retro, and the kids run around and we all pick stuff up and clean. And once the song is over, it's like done. So that's super fun. And then we like to have family time every single night. So every night after dinner, it's like a designated hour where we just spend time together as a family. We'll play games, we'll watch movies and eat popcorn, we'll go for a walk. Like it doesn't matter what it is, depending on weather, but it's just something together as a family.
Oh, I love that so much. Both of those ideas are so great. And I love the song cleanup. I mean, we've done that in the past, but it's something I might need to integrate again, especially in the evenings when we're trying to pick up a little bit, just at least this amount of time, because it's better than not doing anything at all. And when you have like five people, that's like 10 hands versus your own 2 hands. And even one song can make the difference. And then it's not this whole burden on mom. God, I love that. That leads us to number 3, which is my efforts to get rid of the word busy. Because I feel like as moms, we wear this as a badge of honor, but really it's really holding us back because we live in this, how are you doing? It's either I'm fine or I'm busy doing blah, blah, blah. It's always about the doing. So I just want to throw this out to the speakers as they come on here is how can we change the conversation? Either rewording the question or rewording how we answer it, however you want to take that.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. I love that heart of changing the mindset, because I feel like we live in a culture that glorifies busy. And it's funny, one of the main things that I personally have really focused on recently has been starting from a place of rest. So one of the examples we see in the Bible is Jesus has these friends and he goes to visit them, and everyone knows about Mary and Martha, the 2 sisters, and how like Mary's sitting at Jesus's feet and Martha's all busy, and Martha's like, Jesus, make my sister help me. And he's like, Martha, you're too busy, calm down. Like, Mary's chosen the better thing. And I think as moms, you mentioned earlier in the podcast how we set ourselves up for failure. I think that moms have a tendency to put this pressure on ourselves for a certain level of performance because of culture, society, family, whatever it is. And then we end up beating up ourselves for not meeting our own expectations that we put on ourselves. And no one actually has that expectation. It's just in our own head. And I think that we all, to some degree, struggle between both being Mary and Martha. And so one of the things that I really value and that I like to answer with is, number 1, give yourself grace. Start from a place of rest. Start from a place of compassion. Even if it's like 5 minutes in the morning to just read a devotional or spend some time in prayer, or just think about what you want to accomplish for the day, and just starting from that restful place. Like, even if it's the 5 minutes before you actually open your eyes for the day, just starting with that place of rest. And then the next thing is, all throughout the day, it doesn't have to be just first thing in the morning. It can be a conversation like all throughout the day. I know for me that I get frustrated, I get in the tizzy, I have like a million things going on. The kids are screaming, the dogs are barking, someone has a call, like whatever, right? And I just, even if I have to run away to the bathroom for 5 minutes, or just literally take a step backwards and just take a deep breath and say a prayer, or like ask God for help, or whatever it is, that really helps me just like mentally reset my emotions and my frustrations, and just be like, okay, like grace, compassion, how can I approach this differently? And that just really helps me to navigate through each and every day with God's grace, as I navigate the different challenges of family and all the things. So
I love that so much. And just that idea for us, and bring it back and just embracing it rather than saying we need to keep with the busyness of it, which actually then leads us to number 4, because we're talking about success. And a lot of us have different definitions, or at least I'm learning that we have the societal definition of monetary and like house and all these things. But like, I think the more we talk about what actually success means to us, or redefining it or rewording it, whatever it is. So I'd love to know your definition of success. And then how do you celebrate your successes?
for me, I am actually still defining what success means. I am in a season of just learning again, just literally every single day, of just what really actually looks like success. So I don't have an answer. I don't have this like amazing definition. I'm still learning and growing. And I just know that in different seasons of life, it looks like different things. It used to be a long time ago for me where it was like, oh, this big thing that it was kind of cultural and society driven. But as I've really stepped more into that place of grace, and that place of just like celebrating being a mom and being okay with that, and kind of just learning how to be more content with what I have and the lot that I've been given, instead of constantly chasing after all the shiny things and wishing I had this and wishing I had that. Like, just being in a place of contentment brings so much joy and peace and gratitude for what you have. And I feel like that really shifts everything and puts it in perspective.
I think that was the perfect definition. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, thanks.
But how do you celebrate that then?
I mean, yeah, I just really emphasize what I said, just focusing on what I'm grateful for. Like, it doesn't have to be a celebration. It doesn't have to be like this big, like, ooh, I'm going to go do something to celebrate. It's like, it's more just like having that peace and joy and having that sense of, okay, even if I screwed up, even if I made mistakes, even if I yelled at my kids, I go and I say I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, hey, mama messed up and I'm human too. And, and just focusing on what I'm grateful for, taking my kids on that journey with me, having real conversations and not just burying the feelings. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's not like, oh, it's, I'm successful. It's like it's just kind of being real, even with your kids. And just, it's like, if they get upset, I'm like, you know what, you screwed up. It happens. Let's talk about it. Let's move on. Let's not bury feelings. And that's just an everyday kind of thing.
I love it so much. And it really is just coming to small things and really just acknowledging and being grateful for what we have. And I don't know why you say you don't have a definition, because that was great just in expressing it and knowing where we're at, and just the way you were able to express that it's about who I am and where I am. And I think that's the problem, is we have these definitions of what we think it should be, but then when we actually start to talk about and finally we realize what is important and what is actually success to us. And so it's just so beautiful. But that leads us into number 5, which is, how do we inspire that genius inside of our kids more? What tips do you have for us?
I think the greatest thing is actually celebrating what matters to your kids. It's so easy as parents to have expectations on our kids and want them to do this and want them to do that. But actually spending time with them and listening to what they have to say and looking at what they're actually interested in and then investing in that with your kids will inspire them like nothing else. I know for my kids, we started very young with them, where we kind of let them explore different things. And as we noticed different areas that was their zone of genius, we've just grown and like let them take classes or gotten the actual kits or whatever it is to help encourage and inspire that. And so I'll give you one example that kind of circles back to something you said earlier about how us as moms pursuing the things that we've been gifted with also inspires the kids. My son that is 10 is very creative. He loves designing blueprints and mechanics and all the things. And he also loves storytelling just like I do. And so he has actually already published 3 books. And so he's just really latched on to what I've done and said, Mom, can you help me do it too? And so just getting to actually see those dreams come to fruition and not always be telling them, oh, later and this and that. Like, yeah, sometimes you have to tell them not right now, later, but then actually make a time for that later and inspire and pursue their gifts.
I love that so much. And it's true. They watch what we do and they want to mimic it. I mean, same thing with my son as well. He wants to do his own podcast, wants to run his own summit now. And he's actually applied for his own TEDx talk, which I have not done yet. So he's like, Mom, you need to do that too. I'm like, I'm not ready, but you want to do it? By all means.
That's awesome. Wow.
And so I think it really is about them seeing what we're doing. And when we hide it or try to put our dreams aside, that's when we're uninspiring to them. And we can tell them all the things that they should do, but when they see us do it and they know it's possible, then they're willing to push forward to figure out what they want to do as well. And I love that so much. And so we are running out of time, but I would love to know how people can get a hold of you, if you have a free gift, and what your final takeaway is for everyone.
Absolutely. So I'll say that if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can reach out to my email, Katelyn@wewritebooks.com. And I also have a guide. It's 10 things that you need to know before you're writing your book or as you're writing your book to reach more people and create more impact and earn more revenue. And so that guide is at wewritebooks.com/10 things, like the number 10 and then things. I'll put it in the comments for you guys. But the final words I really want to just encourage you with is that know that, kind of like what I said earlier, you really do have a unique thing that you have been given to share, that God really wants to use in you and through you for other people in the world and for a greater purpose than more than you can ever imagine. And so I really, truly believe that your book can change a life.
Oh, I love that. And I just want to thank you so much, Katelyn, for coming on and inspiring us to get our message out in different platforms, certain way, and really showing us the versatility of books and opening up our minds to new genres. And so I'm going to put you backstage right now as you get to listen to my takeaways from your talk. And we'll thank you so much, Katelyn.
Thank you.
And so here's my notes from today. So my chicken scratch, as we can say, but we're getting it all down. And so your book can change a life. So takeaway number one is we got to bust some myths. We have big, huge projects, and thinking that all this writing is going to take us, we got to have 4 or 5 hours, whatever chunk aside. Otherwise, we can't do it. Let's bust that right now and say that nap time, got 15, 20 minutes, use that 15, 20 minutes. Your kids are out doing their soccer or whatever, use that 30 minutes right there. Use the time that you do have to write a paragraph, a page. It does not have to be a full chapter. Number 2, progress over time. We want to, again, write with that creativity, making sure that we're using that time, because when we start to instill that creativity over, it creates that intention. And when we have that intention with the creativity, then we can propel ourselves forward. Number 3 is actually following through with your commitment. Once you get the research, everything on the side, you need to actually sit your butt down and start writing. Do a writing challenge, hire a mentor, get a accountability partner, whatever it takes to actually get you following through on your commitment to yourself, whatever resources you might need for that. And tip number 4 is having that unique voice experience. You have the moment along the way, and one person needed your message. You were hiding it from the person who needs that message, and you don't want to hold that back anymore. So you need to put your message out there so that you can reach the person that you were supposed to be. Otherwise, we keep in that stuck. Let's get rid of the excuses and get our voices out there. And then number 5 is going through the process of the edit, design, cover, launch strategy, all of that she went through with us, and making sure that you pick the strategy that works for you. And don't forget about the fiction ideas and the nonfiction and the different aspects that we can go, but make that goal for yourself. And then choose the tools that you're going to need to get that. Like, look at that end goal and then work yourself backwards, making sure that what I can commit to 100% until the end. And remember that with these books you're doing is you're building community, and you can do things such as book signing fairs, anything to start building that community based on your message. And with that, I thank you for tuning into the Mama Genius Hub podcast. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.